Well, hello there, and welcome to Critical Weight Theory. Today, I'm going to dig into one of the artists who is shaping modern music, at least in terms of rock influence. He's one of the most prolific and unpredictable figures in contemporary rock, and his name is Ty Segall. So I don't know if it's pronounced Segall or Seagull. I'm just going to pronounce it like the bird. So get used to that. It's going to happen. Anyway, if you've ever been caught in a whirlwind of fuzzed out guitars, lo-fi chaos, and psychedelic twists, there's a good chance you've stumbled into Ty Segall's universe. There's plenty of fuzzy guitar riffage and garage rock vibes aplenty, and it really started off in his early years. He was born June 8th, 1987, in Laguna Beach, California. He grew up surrounded by California's surf and skate culture, and music pulled him in a different direction. In the mid 2000s, he started carving out his place in the San Francisco garage rock scene. He played in bands like Epsilon's, Party Foul, and the Traditional Fools, projects that he'd later describe as either former or part time. But in 2008, everything changed when he released his first self titled solo album. And oddly enough, or quirkily enough, he would later release a second self titled solo album. So it's a little bit like, all of these movies that are uh, redos, that they have coming out, like came out in, what was it, 2018, and then you have the original Halloween, and it's a little bit like that, only in terms of album releases. And that first self-titled solo album was raw, it was loud, and it was DIY to the core, and it was the first real glimpse of the relentless creative machine that Ty Segall would become. And he was building a solo career, and it was a solo career that really hasn't slowed down. He's built a reputation for releasing album after album, often surprising fans with how different each one feels. Melted from 2010, it's bright, noisy, and catchy, and has a kick ass, freaky album cover. I really do like that album cover. It's worth checking out the album just to see that. And 2 years later, he released Twins, which I admittedly haven't listened to, but from what I understand, it leans harder into psychedelia. I was going to say psychedelica. Maybe I was going to say Psychofunkapus, which I guess is an actual band. But anyway, by 2014, he released Manipulator, which is an expansive, almost classic rock style double album that showed just how much his songwriting had grown. And his later albums, like the 2017 self titled record, I was going to say Sife titled. I'm getting dyslexic or something here. Words are getting jumbled up. But anyway, he had a second self titled album in 2017. He had a release called Freedom's Goblin in 2018. I like that album title. And First Taste in 2019. Of course, each album pushed out different sounds. These records brought in horns, acoustic textures, and new rhythmic experiments while still keeping the fuzz drenched energy alive. And he's done collaborations and side projects, sort of to keep things a little bit fresh, probably to gain some new ideas and maybe expand his repertoire. Ty Segall isn't just a solo act, he's constantly teaming up with other musicians. There's Fuzz, the heavy rock power trio with Charles Mouthart and Roland Cosio. I'm not familiar with those two names that much. But there's that one. Then there's his collaboration with White Fence, his name is Tim Presley apparently, and that's a 2012 album titled Hair. It's a project that is said to have blurred the lines between garage rock and a full-on rock musical. Admittedly, I haven't listened to that one either. It sounds interesting, and he's also worked closely with Michael Cronin, another staple of the garage rock revival, creating a body of work that's both wide-ranging and deeply connected to the DIY scene. And I haven't been able to see him live, but I've been under the impression that it's a good live experience. I did watch a YouTube video where he played live, and it was good. And they say that to really get Ty Segall, you've got to see him live, and I don't get to see anybody live, so unfortunately, that's not something I can really say I've experienced. But Segall is known for explosive performances, loud and noisy. He often tours with his backing group called the Freedom Band, who help bring his ever expanding catalog to life on stage. And fans talk about his concerts as more than just shows. They're cathartic, chaotic celebrations of rock in its purest, most unpolished form, or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it means for something to be pure and or unpolished. I don't know exactly what that means. I mean, I I kind of have that aesthetic myself. I like to be a primitive guitarist who just picks up the musical instrument and records. Well, it doesn't have to be a guitar, it can be a synthesizer, whatever. I just kind of like doing that myself, so maybe that would be pure and unpolished. I don't know. To me, it just seems like, a regular thing that you would think more people would do. I don't know. I guess to me it might be something that just conveys an attitude. Like it's not really the most commercially appealing. Like it doesn't sound like it's catering to rock radio or something like that. I guess that could be what is meant by that sort of expression. And he's an important musician, I guess is what I'm saying, to modern rock. Ty Segall, his influences are clear. He pulls from the Beatles, Black Sabbath, the Stooges, the Ramones, but he's not just imitating. That's one of the good things about him. He's pushing those ideas forward. His sound often gets compared to contemporaries like the OCs or people like that. But his own catalog shows a restless creativity, and it's an original sounding band, and that's one of the good things about it. Even though, of course, he has some people out there that sound a little bit like him that he'll inevitably be compared to, but I think he's unique enough that he kind of stands out in his own way. Over time, his work has evolved from straight ahead garage rock into something more eclectic. He combines glam, folk, noise, and even moments of quiet introspection. Albums like Emotional Mugger and Freedom's Goblin, from what I understand, they show him tearing down genre walls and building new ones in their place. I haven't listened to those albums. I really should, because Freedom's Goblin is such a good album title. If nothing else, I don't think I've listened to those albums. Um, my mind is a little bit rusty on that, so I apologize. But I like what I've heard. His songs would sometimes appear on my Pandora station, and I'm sure I've heard from various albums of his, but I haven't really listened to that many of his albums overall. You know what I'm saying? I've just heard like individual tracks for the most part. But I did listen to the I think it was Melted yeah, I did listen to Melted for sure. And I've heard plenty of his other songs elsewhere, like I said, on Pandora, sometimes on YouTube. Um, Things just pop up sometimes, and I've listened to his material that way. And he's what can I say? He's a central figure in the garage rock revival. He has a lot of albums, massive output, and he likes to pick up guitars, bash out songs. And he's got recent albums like Harmonizer and Three Bells. And he stays firmly rooted in the fuzz and fire that made his name, yet he's willing to occasionally do something different, which I think is cool. You know, you don't always have to hit that one note. You can always try other stuff. So Ty Segall is proof that rock doesn't have to be polished to be powerful. Again, I don't know exactly what polished means, but uh, it's it's more raw, I guess. It sounds less calculated, perhaps. I don't know. And his career, you know, it's proof that some of the best music comes from raw energy, restless experimentation, and a refusal to sound just like everybody else. And I guess that's it for today's episode. If you haven't yet, go listen to Ty Segall's work. You can start with Melted or Manipulator, then dive into the chaos of his side projects and whatever else he's put out. And thanks for listening. And until next time, keep your ears ringing.